culture. Our next speaker is Finster, and she has been a software developer since 1998. She has a passion for continuous delivery and improving team workflow, has facilitated CI/CD training workshops, has grown a successful DevOps user community, and run company-wide DevOps events in a Fortune 1 company. You may want to check, you probably can figure out who the Fortune 1 company is. She currently leads the DevOps Dojo CD team at FireEye, and let us welcome to the stage Dana Finster.
We'll switch to the next. To the next. Okay. Technical difficulties. There we go. Good morning, and I need to echo what Franklin just said about the Ignite Talks. That's always one of my favorite parts of this event. And I also want to thank Franklin and the rest of the organizers for having me here today. I really appreciate being able to come and give some of my thoughts around DevOps and continuous delivery. I've discovered really the benefits of continuous delivery, the joy as a developer, several years ago. It was when I had that first aha moment, is what I like to call it, when I finally figured out exactly how to break my work down and get it to where I could just push it right down the automated pipeline. The tests would run, and it just arrived in production without any need to work with any other teams, to coordinate things. There it went. Aha. Helping teams with this big mindset shift that it takes to get to continuous delivery is something that I've been passionate about since that moment, because it is a very big shift in the mindset. If it wasn't, we wouldn't need an aha moment to really figure it out. Changing mindset is hard, and it's even harder when, depending on the organization, depending on the team and their goals, it's a little bit different approach and a little bit different change that's required based on the context of the organization or the team. So there's no prescription for DevOps, right? We wouldn't be here if it was easy. Instead, I kind of like to think of having a toolkit full of ideas, different perspectives, maybe some success stories, some horror stories that can help people think about things differently and maybe encourage them to run their own experiments with change and their own experiments with what might work for them. And one of those tools that I have in my toolkit, really it's my mantra, is just do the math. Do the math. It's really simple math that just looks at things a little bit differently than we read in all the books, but it's all the same concepts that can really help maybe open eyes. And I've really found it useful in talking to different teams and organizations to encourage people to start experimenting. Wow. Okay, my slide's not changing. Having technical difficulties. Okay, well, we have a manual fix for that. First, the mandatory disclaimer: no actual FireEye customers are represented or otherwise implicated in this talk. I start almost every talk that I give with this quote from Donovan Brown, because DevOps is not about the tools. It's not taking an ops team and a dev team and smushing them together. It has to be about the culture of the organization, the mindset of the people, and the value that we deliver to end users. And in this talk, I'm going to focus on the mindset of the people, particularly the mindset of teams as they work together and try to make changes to deliver value quickly, how to become an efficient team, and what's really needed. In my experience, I think there's 3 key areas where this mindset shift has to occur: teams, architecture, and planning. If we think about a project team is often a big group of individuals who have come together to focus on a set of requirements that they've been handed. And they each potentially work even in their own little silos on their piece of the project. But with continuous delivery, we need to shift toward collaborative product teams that are focused on the life cycle of their entire product and the value that they're delivering to the end users. When we work on a project, a lot of times the work is intertwined. There can be lots of manual processes, and deploy takes too much effort. So people are resistant to moving fast. But with lean process and automation, teams can go fast and really focus on incremental delivery of value to their customers. And architecture is important. It's important because some architectures are more open to incremental growth than others. If we think about tightly coupled architectures, they require potentially a lot of integration. They require complex coordination, and it can really slow things down if your teams and your products are all interwoven and dependent on one another. Now, this isn't to say that if we're just starting out and we've got a big monolith and we are trying to figure this out, that doesn't mean all of a sudden put everything in microservices in the cloud. That's the magic, it'll be done. No, it's really just to encourage using techniques like domain-driven design to start breaking functions into products, individual products, and start guiding evolutionary change, which will lead to more loosely coupled architectures, the products that are more independently deployable, and teams that can own a single focused component, which will help remove the need to manage dependencies. The last area that I want to talk about is in the planning. We need long planning sessions, hours and days, sometimes even weeks, to plan for large projects with lots of features and complexity. But with CD, it's very important to move toward short, frequent planning sessions with continuous planning in order to incorporate feedback and really change the way that we deliver value to our users. When I first started working this way, one of the things that came to me was that every release is missing the next feature. Because our product's going to continue to grow as long as it provides value. So what we're really doing is we need to stop planning for done and start planning for and focusing on what value can we deliver today. I've talked to a lot of different companies. I've talked to teams, I've worked on teams, and I've heard a lot of things in relation to this big shift and change. I've heard people say, we don't really need to focus on this because what we're doing now is fine. Or this branching strategy has always worked for us in the past. I'm sure it'll be fine. Well, maybe, yeah, we really do want to start working faster, but after this next release, because it's really important. Or, my favorite, all we need is a better deployment pipeline. The excuses are rampant, but I argue that the change in mindset is absolutely necessary for continuous delivery success. And I want to share with you some ideas that are kind of boiled down into simple math in this talk today. So let's do the math. welcome to my classroom. In every math class back in the day, we had word problems, right? So we're going to start this with a word problem. We have a team, and this word problem is going to represent the way teams work and how it can affect delivery success. So we have Dwayne, Maxine, Brent, Tom, Dave, and Perna all on a team. They have 6 features that require the same level of effort. And provided everything goes according to plan, if they each work on a single feature, then all 6 features will be done in exactly 90 days. If all 6 developers work together to complete the highest priority feature first, then work on the next highest priority together, and so on, until all 6 features are complete, when will the highest priority feature be completed? Let's do the math. If we have a single person working 90 days, we can divide by 6, and priority 1 is delivered in 15 days. That's 75 days earlier than when working as siloed individuals. It's an 83% shorter cycle time when we come together as a team and focus on a single priority. But we did make some assumptions. We had some hard facts. It's a math word problem. And I think maybe some of you might be thinking, sure, that might work in a perfect world, but no, we're different, we're special. Well, let's break it down. Let's look at some of the arguments, and we'll see. First, we said all 6 features require the same level of effort. Is this realistic? One of the arguments that I hear around this, and as I present some of these arguments, I encourage you to think of arguments that you've heard within your organizations, and also see if some of the answers that I'm providing would help you counter those as well. But one argument that I've heard on this one is that our customer requested something. This is what they want, or the business goal is this, and we don't have control over how big it is. We just have to deliver exactly what they asked for. But when we're trying to deliver value quickly, when we're shifting to DevOps, when we're making this cultural change, we're not just talking about IT and development. And the planning, the value that we're delivering spans across IT, business, all the way to the customer. And it's important that everyone understand the value of incremental change. But there's good news, because you have a phone, it has apps, you work with software, operating systems on a regular basis. Don't you get frequent updates all the time that you can pull down whenever you want? Customers are already used to getting incremental value every single day. And when we continuously deliver in small batches, it allows us to produce the most value because we can take in the feedback from the customers before working on the next thing to make sure that we're really on the right track. When delivering in these small increments, it's a lot easier to make things closer to the same size so that our planning can be more on target. Because once everything is small, they're inherently closer in size. Now, the word problem made another assumption as well. Everything goes exactly as planned, because that always happens in IT, right? I think we're all familiar with Murphy's Law. And here's a fun little formula I found that correlates to Murphy's Law. Anything can go wrong, it will, at the worst possible time, causing the most damage. And in this formula, I found it on the internet, so I'm sure it's absolutely valid, but the idea is, you can play around with it if you want to. We're not going to go too deep into detail, but there are factors assigned value from 1 to 9. on urgency, complexity, importance, skill, frequency, and aggravation. And the idea here is that in order to change the odds of things going wrong, you have to change one of the elements in the equation. So we can think about it this way. If something is really urgent or complex, then in order to increase our chance of success, we can find a simple way to do it. And that's where, by breaking down our batches and delivering smaller increments of work, we can increase our chances of success, because bigger, more complex things are just going to be more likely to go wrong. And this is my favorite. All 6 developers work together to deliver the highest priority first. But wait a minute. The argument here is that we've worked really, really hard to put these experts on our team. And if we have the experts working on certain things, that's going to get us the most value because they'll be the fastest. But to be most effective, this mindset needs to change. A product team needs to have T-shaped people. So there's room for the experts with the deep knowledge, but then they need to be expected to broaden their skills, to have a broad knowledge of competencies, the rest of the competencies needed on the team. That way the team can work together. They can learn from each other, and the focus of the team can always be on the next priority. When deployments are small and focused, and the team works together to finish one thing before moving on to the next, feedback from the team, the product owners, and even the customers can be incorporated before the next iteration, allowing the focus always to be on what's really needed next, not what we thought might be needed next 3 months ago when we came up with this plan. And when priorities change, they can easily be incorporated because things can be reorganized without stopping people in the middle of separate streams of work, without leaving unfinished work sitting on a shelf like stale inventory. And speed. With our word problem example, we could deliver the highest priority 83% faster when working as a team. So this brings us to a very simple math fact. 1 is greater than 6. It's new math. And it means, basically, one team is greater than the sum of its individuals. Here's a visual to see what we're talking about with the word problem, and to see how work can be delivered faster by teams working together rather than by groups of individuals working on their own thing. On the left, we have work that's assigned to the team. We just have 6 priorities in order. On the right, we have work that's assigned out to individuals up front, and everybody's working in their own streams. As we go through work increments, and we'll call these sprints, we can watch as the team delivers one of the priorities after each sprint. While the individual is working siloed within their own team, don't actually get to a point of delivering any value until the very end of the last sprint. So when we look at this picture, what I see and what I think is important is that when we're working together as a team, we're delivering smaller batches at a time and getting value to the users more rapidly. Siloed individuals are delivering a large amount of work at the end of a much longer time frame. The entire team is knowledgeable about the change when they're working together. So troubleshooting is a lot easier, it's faster, and it's going to save money in the long run. But when everyone's focused on something different, taking longer to deploy, troubleshooting becomes harder and more costly. The team working together is obviously focused on the highest priority, whatever that next priority is. When you have different members of a team working on all different things, we really lose that sense of prioritization, and we don't know what value we're really delivering or what's most important. But even after we've set our priorities, we're working in small batches, we're collaborative as a team, knowledge is shared, we're giving ourselves as a team the best chance for success. Some things still go wrong. Someone could be out on vacation or sick or even take off in an RV and leave the team altogether. Features could be more complex than we originally thought. Bugs, support calls come in, they interrupt the day. But even with all these interruptions, disruptions, and things that don't go quite as planned, the team is still the best model for success. Because any of these things could slow down a little bit, but the team continues to deliver incremental value. And continuous integration means everyone on the team is pushing small batches of code daily, completing multiple individual tasks per day. This doesn't work as well if the individuals are only focused on their own assigned team, their own assigned stream. And when individuals are siloed, it's easy to start gold plating. We're developers, adding things because they're cool, or chasing down rabbit holes that don't actually add the value that's important right now. But when everybody works together as a team, everyone's focused on the same outcome. Mistakes in estimating can be found more quickly. Feedback from previous iterations can be taken into consideration to correct the course for the next iteration. And when working in small batches, interruptions are just not as disruptive. It's a lot easier to be able to finish up a very short task, grab a bug or a support request that comes in, rather than interrupting someone in the middle of a long-running task. So we can see here, based on our word problem and based on this example of outcomes, or of things not going quite as planned, the team still has a higher probability of getting more done. They've got 5 of 6 features completed. They still did 83% of the work, including the highest priority. Individuals working siloed got 3 of the 6 delivered, only 50%. And there's really no guarantee that those 3 features that are completed can actually be delivered together. Because by nature, if you're deploying code all at once, it doesn't force the features to be independently deployable. There could be hidden dependencies. Which brings us to the impact of dependencies. Dependencies have a great impact on a team's ability to deploy, whether they're external dependencies, dependencies within a team, handoffs between silos, inside or outside of a team, architecture, because they require a high level of coordination, and change in one place can inadvertently change something else. And this was summed up by Troy McGinnis at the 2015 Agile Alliance. It's also echoed by Dominica de Grandes in her book, Making Work Visible. His logical formula is probability equals 1 over 2 to the number of dependencies. And it works out to show that every dependency doubles your chance of being delayed or late. So let's do the math. Very quickly, we can see how adding dependencies very rapidly decreases our chance for success. With only 3 dependencies, we're already down to a 1 in 8 shot, or a 12% chance of delivering on time. Independent, loosely coupled teams and architecture are key to success in delivering quickly. So this brings us to the planning aspect. We're working as a team, we're delivering small batches, we're minimizing our complexity and our dependencies, we're really moving fast. So what does this do to our planning, to our team communications? It means planning, retrospectives, updates have to happen more often. This equates to more meetings, more planning, more meetings. And right, we all have the mindset and thought that more planning is less work. Sitting in boring meetings, we don't get as much work done. That's one way to read that. This is a mindset that needs to change. Because when we think of meetings, so many people think, boring. And you're absolutely right, because a meeting is absolutely boring. If it's a group of people that are working on their own independent things, and they have to sit in the room together for an hour, listening to a lot of talk about things that don't affect their daily work. And I personally feel sorry for the poor manager the manager or the lead, who's trying to actually keep track of all the separate streams of work going on at the same time. To him, I don't believe meetings are boring. He's thinking, this is chaotic. But when the team is focused on the same outcomes, they're focused on a single deliverable, working in single-piece flow, planning, retrospectives, daily updates become valuable. They become an integral part of day-to-day work for the team. They are part of the work. Planning and retrospectives and meetings, it's what allows us to actually incorporate feedback and communicate. And when the team plans together often, they can integrate this external and internal feedback to deliver the right value quickly. Effectively harnessing feedback keeps teams focused on what is required and results in less effort to deliver the value. So we're almost out of time, and the class is almost over. We're going to do a quick review. Use simple math to change minds and influence DevOps culture. Building collaborative, T-shaped teams focused on outcomes is important because outcomes are greater than output, and teams are greater than the individuals that make them up. Build small, focused, and independent components, and minimize dependencies at all costs, because they cost a lot. And continuous planning. Planning is integral to the team's work, to learn and harness feedback. And finally, work in small batches, commit daily, and always be deployable because Murphy. Pop quiz. No good teacher would not leave you without a pop quiz. Given we have 6 people and 6 features to deliver, which of these will deliver value more rapidly? A, work together on only the highest priority. B, assign features to individual experts so everything is being worked on. Can you show of hands for A? I heard a lot of A's. B, I gotta go talk to you. If you were paying attention, you should have answered A. Work together on only the highest priority. I'll leave you with one final thought, and that's a summer reading list. I know summer's almost over, but if you're anything like me, you always wait till the last minute anyway. This is just a list of a few of the resources that I really enjoy and find to be helpful in doing a deeper dive into some of these ideas. So thank you very much.